Welcome to Explicit Expression, where it's facts over feelings. My name is Adam, and I'm going to tell you how it is, and I don't care how you feel about it. Let's go.
And President Donald Trump.
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
Nice to see you. Have fun.
Thank you.
Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you.
I don't think he wanted to shake her hand.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid. And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing. And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations.
Yo, the way she dodged questions is fucking crazy. They asked her a simple question and she started talking about everything else.
Which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all,
Bruh. This nigga asked her about the economy, what if it's better now or before, and she started talking about everything else. She didn't even answer the question, bro. All right, well, that's question number one that we're not going to get an answer to, so let's go to question number two.
President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal?
Bruh. She's not going to answer any questions up here tonight. He asked her why did they keep the tariffs that they claim is so bad for the country. All the tariffs that he put in place for China and all the other places. He asked her, why did y'all keep them in place since y'all took office? And she's like, let's be clear. What Trump did is this. Bro, are you going to answer any questions?
With China, what he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States.
And that's a lie. Bro, I watched the whole debate. They fact check literally almost everything that Trump said. But she said some outrageous fucking shit. And they ain't say anything. Shit crazy.
States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her.
She ain't answered nothing. She ain't answer that question. So let's go to the next question. Come on, bro. Let's go to the next question.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who...
Okay. So he's asking, since she's been in the White House as the vice president, Joe Biden's been the president for 3.5 years, almost 4 years. Why have they waited so long to bring a bill that will help with the immigration crisis? And like always, tonight, she's gonna find a way to dodge this question. If you had her on your dodgeball team in school, oh my God, that's an automatic win, cause you know she's good at dodging. This shit is crazy. I guarantee you, she's not gonna answer this question. I put my life on the line. Come on, Kamala. Kamala, please answer the question.
who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill.
Okay, so she's talking about the bill that they came up with 3.5 years later, after they've been president and vice president of the country. They waited 3.5 fucking years to come up with a bill for the border. Now they're blaming Trump for it, saying that it was his fault that this bill didn't pass. Trump wasn't even anywhere close to the White House. So she's not answering the question, number one. Number two, now she's blaming Trump for the border problem. I thought she was in charge for the border. I thought Joe Biden was the president. Y'all waited 3.5 fucking years to bring a bill to try to secure the border, and then on top of that, you blame Trump for the bill not passing. And then the question was, why did you wait 3.5 years to bring a bill forward to protect the border? And she deflect that question and start blaming Trump for it. Like, bro, she's not going to answer no question in this debate. I guarantee you. And then ABC is just going to let it slide.
Which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country.
Yeah.
That bill...
Because of you. Because of you and Joe Biden. Because of you and Joe Biden. Bro, you gotta be fucking kidding me right now. This lady is seriously sitting here talking about, oh, how devastating it is for all these drugs, fentanyl, and all these people to come here and commit all these crimes and do all these things under their watch, while she was the vice president, while she was in charge of the border, while Joe Biden was the president for 3.5 years. And then she's sitting here acting like they couldn't do anything. And then right before election time, they drag a bill and try to pass it real quick. And then once that bill doesn't pass, they blame Trump for it. This shit cannot be. This shit is unreal.
Would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks.
That wasn't the question, though. Are you going to answer any of these questions? That wasn't the question.
In Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the
But y'all had 3.5 years to fix the problem. I don't understand. Like, people are really tripping. Y'all had 3.5 years to fix the problem. You didn't. All of a sudden now, it's time for election. You try to rush a bill through. It fails. And it's Donald Trump's fault.
people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill and successfully...
I'm fucking... Wow, this shit cannot be happening right now. Okay, I guess, thank you, Vice President Kamala Harris. Next question.
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president...
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation
we do have a lot
that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking, because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to...
No, so this what happened, right? They stopped everything. The fracking, all of that. They stopped everything. And shit was going so bad, they started giving out leases to people, right? If they would have just left it how it was and just let people drill and do what they were doing, the problem wouldn't have happened in the first place. Again, she's not going to answer any of these questions. They asked her a question. She beat around the bush, talk about everything else. And then ABC just goes to the next question. They don't ask a follow-up. It's crazy. I think CNN even did a better job than what they're doing. Well, I don't know. CNN was giving her multiple choice questions, so I wouldn't say that either. But hey, all these fucking news stations, national news stations, it's like they just love the Democrats. It's like they just love them. It's crazy. I don't get it, bro. And I you know what? Matter of fact, I do get it. It's the majority. Most people that are in your face or, you know, just publicly on TV like that, that's the type of shit they want to see. This is the type of shit they want to hear. These are the type of people that they like listening to, who would just tell them shit that they want to hear and don't do anything to back it up. So I'm not surprised by
Invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of...
If she know anything about business, most businesses don't make it on the first try. They're not successful on the first try. So if they fail 5, 6, 7, 8 times, you know, they keep trying. Walmart, look it up. Walmart failed, I think maybe a couple of times. What other company that I read about? I think Amazon. Amazon failed a couple of times. Look at them now. So her saying that to make it look like it's a shot or it's a bad thing is not. Most first-time businesses fail. And then what you do after that failure is what matters. I even forgot the question that they asked because now she's talking about everything else, bro. This shit is crazy.
And my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about...
She asked her about all the things that she switched up on. And now she's talking about her values. They asked you about why you switched up on all the things you switched up on, bro. Come on.
Protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name-calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your response?
First of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions.
Right.
And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever.
Right.
She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please.
I mean,
Does that sound familiar?
President Trump,
She
go
went
ahead and
out.
talk. She ain't going to answer the question, so.
In Minnesota.
Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7,
Bro, we know how we got there. We don't want to hear how we got there. We already know what happened. We know who attacked first. We know what happened. The question was, why isn't there a deal? You said you had a deal in the making. She just said that there's no deal in the making. There's nothing there. We don't want to know how we got there.
Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis, many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters, because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
Together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense flank to Poland a few days before Russia.
Moment, but also as commander-in-chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me.
Okay, bro.
I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence.
Bro, I tell you, bro, I want her on my dodgeball team. Yeah, I want her. I want Kamala Harris on my dodgeball team. She knows how to dodge questions, bro. This shit crazy. She haven't answered any question up here today. Oh my, I want her on my dodgeball team. Oh my God, she's good, bro. She's good at dodging questions. She's good at turning them around and giving them the answer to what she wants to talk about. Like just twisting shit up and just talking about a whole bunch of shit that don't make no fucking sense, bro. Like, if you talk about gibberish, you know that commercial with the was it a commercial? No, that video. I forgot why I saw that video. What the girls like something about, I want to do the y'all know what I'm talking about? That's how she sound, bro. Just ramble a whole bunch of shit that got nothing to do with the question that they asked. Just a bunch of shit. I don't get it. How do people listen to her? And her voice is fucking annoying, bro. I'm even surprised that I'm lasting this long listening to her on this fucking debate. Like, bro, come on, man. Y'all gotta be. I guess you gotta be vibing with her, and you gotta be, you gotta have a lot of feelings and emotion built up, because she speaks through your emotions. She try to get people sensitive. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm just surprised. Well, I'm not surprised, but come on, bro. She gotta answer at least one question directly, bro. This is ridiculous.
Intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan for...
I almost thought she answered that question directly. Right? I was about to give it to her. I was about to say, you know what? She won this debate. She answered a fucking question. And then she kept on talking.
Presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders.
Y'all been in office for 3.5 years, bro.
Former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So, if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo, was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, "I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black." I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something, I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm asking.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her.
Or Hispanic,
that's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe...
I can't believe she's saying that. That's been a Democratic Party since. Like, bruh, since the beginning of time, that's been the Democratic Party. They call everybody racist. They think... They want to make black people think that if you, not even make, they made black people think that if you're a Republican or white or any other race, you hate black people. Like, this shit is fucking crazy. That's been the Democratic Party since. At least she's answering one question. She's answering one question.
Believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families.
That's a lie.
Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution.
All right, that's it. But let me let her say what she got to say.
Of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5.
Okay. That's what I got to say about that. Okay. This nigga Donald Trump was a prominent figure in his neighborhood, in that city, right? In that state. He's building houses, high rises, apartments, condos, whatever. He was big. He was known. Me personally, I don't care what fucking race you are. I don't care what color you are or what type of shade you think you are. In my neighborhood, if something like that happens, right, I will speak out, right, and say, hey, if these people are guilty and if they did what they're saying that they did, they should be locked up. Throw their ass underneath the jail. I would say that. I don't care what color they are. And I feel like that's what he did. Being the figure that he was, being looked up to like the way he was looked up to, being the person that he was at that time, he probably felt like he had to say something, right? And they're taking that shit and just running with it like this dude just knew these people was innocent and came out and just try to make sure that they get convicted. That shit is crazy.
Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States.
Fuck that nigga. That nigga ain't did shit for no black people. That nigga ain't did shit for nobody. He just came in there and just like a fucking puppet. What the fuck? The first, who give a fuck what color that nigga is? Your job as the president is to come in there and make sure that everybody in the United States of America is able to work and support their family. I don't give a fuck what color you is. What the hell?
And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this, want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't.
Let me tell you something. You can be my neighbor. You can be my coworker. You can be a teammate, friend, cousin. If you don't want if you don't see or want good of me, if you don't want me to do well, if you don't want me to grow, I don't give a fuck about you. So all this peace for all and everybody needs to no, because everybody don't like everybody. Everybody don't want to see you make it. So I don't understand these people why they just feel like it's everybody that you meet, all your neighbors just want to see you make it. That's not the truth. You recognize people that want to see you make it and people that help you, and you help them. And not everybody wants that for you. So this kumbaya and peace for all shit is crazy.
Want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time
do that regardless.
who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division. The plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction, to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life, to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay. Thank you,
That's
Mr.
what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable
Bernie
Care Act.
Sanders?
I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time, when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate, and the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said, at the time because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president, and we, over the last 4 years, have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed, for the first time, Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice
Fastest
President
prologue
Harris, thank
in terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move. What would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said the climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump. So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever
I ain't
asked
gonna
them,
lie. They got
are
her
you okay?
prepared. They got her prepared.
And that's the
for
kind
this
of president
debate.
we
I'm not
need
gonna
right
lie.
now. Someone who cares about you
say
and
a
is
whole
not
bunch
putting
of
themselves
bullshit.
first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it?
I couldn't have said it any better. This whole been the vice president for 3.5 years. They're still in the White House, her and Joe Biden. All these things that she's proposing, all these things that she's trying to do, why haven't they done it yet? They still can do it. Why haven't they went and did it yet? But supposedly they want to do all these good things. Like, this is fucking crazy. Why are people not...
She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like, we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
Yeah, so there you have it. I couldn't even count how many questions they asked her. She ain't answered none of them. I think she only answered one question. No, she partially answered one question. But yeah, she evaded every question they asked her. She went in and just started mumbling about a whole bunch of shit that had nothing to do with what they asked her. Most of the questions they asked her, she turned around and blamed Trump for it. So yeah, I don't understand. I didn't understand what her policy was when they, force Biden out and push her in without a primary. And I still don't understand what her policy is. She just says a whole bunch of shit that don't make no sense and just run her fucking mouth, bro. Yeah, I mean, if she answered any questions, y'all please help me in the comments. You can write me, email me, send me a direct message. Explicit expression. I don't know. I'm still confused. I'm still confused, bro. Hey, if y'all voting for it, y'all go ahead. Y'all gonna do what y'all want to do anyway. I'm out.